It's a special Thanksgiving edition of Recipe for a Classic, Coach's Corner edition here on RFM. Great to have you along with us, Todd Robbins for RFM this evening. Looking forward to a fantastic Thanksgiving Day Classic, the 140th meeting of Leominster and Fitchburg, the 115th Thanksgiving Day Classic this coming Thursday morning. Fortunate to be joined now by Fitchburg High School head coach Greg Graham, going into his first official Thanksgiving as head coach of this Red Raider program. Greg, great to have you with us tonight. Going to hopefully have an opportunity here to explore so much your season with the Red Raiders under what we'll call closer to normal circumstances in this 2021 fall season, and then explore a little bit about your own personal experience and connection with this rivalry as well. So to start, let's talk about kind of going all the way back to camp, as you're coming out of what was that crazy spring season, which was your first season as head coach of this program. You'd get a summer to sort of reset things almost. And then in August, you are right back at it. You're in camp, you are starting up this program, and you're looking out over the season ahead. As you look back on that time now, and you think about kind of what you were thinking at that moment in time, how do you think your team and your program has progressed since August to where you are now?
Oh man, it's been fun, to say the least. It's, you know what I mean? Like, obviously coming into it, you know what I mean? And just kind of not really sure, what type of team we were going to be. And I know certain guys were coming back that we were excited about, but still, coming into it and just kind of like unsure, you know what I mean? And not really sure what to expect, you know what I mean? Like, obviously the anticipation of everything and just thinking, like, we just have to be good. We have to be successful, just hoping the best for everything. You know what I mean? You come in and you just kind of like, I know for me, I was obviously just very nervous, you know what I mean, about everything. So, but then once we got the ball rolling, you know what I mean, and getting to see the kids on the field and the way that kids worked, you know what I mean? Like, we obviously, like, we came off of a pretty good summer with the numbers in the weight room and kids putting in that extra work, you know what I mean? So I was obviously very excited and couldn't wait to see, you know what I mean, what type of kids and what type of product we would have as a program, you know what I mean? But once we got into it, like I said, and got to see the kids out there running around and moving and things like that, I mean, the excitement just grew. I knew we were going to be pretty good, you know what I mean? We definitely would compete with anybody that we played against. And that in itself, just, that's all I would expect. That's all I want, you know what I mean? And we've gotten that, you know what I mean? So, to say the least, it was an exciting time up until now still, you know what I mean?
To the folks that aren't on the inside of a program, that weight room time period, I think, is a little bit of an enigma. They don't really understand that piece of it. They know that obviously there's an off-season training program, but that weight room experience, because it's the kind of situation that is not mandatory, it's outside of season coaching, there was a lot about players having to be self-starters in order to make a program like that work. What does that say about a program? What does that say about your program, that kids are willing to come in and dedicate themselves in that off-season time period, especially after having just played a season just a couple of months earlier in the springtime, and that they came in focused and wanting to, of course, invest the time in the summer so that it would pay off come the fall?
Man, I mean, that just to be honest and upfront, I mean, that alone, it's a challenge, because you're dealing with teenagers, you know what I mean, and like everything else in the summer is like a more exciting thing to go and do. I mean, you know what I mean? It's hot outside. Your friends are going here, they're going there. A lot of kids are working. Their families are going on vacation. So it definitely poses a challenge. But when you get those, 30 kids or those 35 kids that are extremely dedicated and they don't miss a workout, they're calling you and hounding you and eager, you know what I mean, to get into the weight room and get the workout in and be leaders. Like, we have a lot of kids that just stepped up and wanted to be leaders, you know what I mean? So just having those type of kids in the program, I mean, the challenge is there, but it also makes it easy, you know what I mean? Like, we just have really hardworking kids, you know what I mean? And I'm just fortunate to have that. I'm glad that the kids understand what it's going to take to be successful and that they want that. And I mean, even now, getting to the end of the season, like listening to our younger kids talk and like they can't wait to get in the weight room and get bigger and get stronger and get faster. And like, you know what I mean? Like they're looking forward to next year, you know what I mean? So it just kind of says a lot about the older kids that put the work in and the older kids that kind of showed these younger kids like, hey, this is what it's going to take. You know, we've had a pretty successful season. Obviously, it didn't end the way we wanted. We didn't reach our goal, which, you know, the goal for any program, I would think, is to win a state championship. That's what you're looking to do when you come into this thing. So I definitely think our older kids have done a good job of showing the younger kids, you know, what it's going to take, you know what I mean, to get into the playoffs and have a chance at a run, you know what I mean, to do something special, you know what I mean. So it's definitely it poses a challenge, but it's also easy when you have hardworking kids like we have, you know what I mean. So I'm just excited about that and fortunate to be where I'm at and have the group of kids that we have right now.
When you think about the players that were dedicated and were the ones that were hounding you this summer in order to get into that weight room, and you look at where they are now, is that, you know, one of those things where you could directly look at those younger student athletes and go, you know, this person here did everything and then some in order to make themselves as prepared as they possibly could be for success. And of course, they now get that opportunity on this Thanksgiving Thursday for that moment to pay off.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's, you know, as a coach and, you know, having other guys on the coaching staff, you know what I mean? Like, this is something, you know, like we talked about a lot, you know what I mean? Like you stand there, you're in the weight room and you're interacting with kids and you see kids transforming their body, you know what I mean? And kids wanting to eat better and kids wanting to do healthy things. And then you see some of these kids on the field and the things that they're doing and the leadership that they possess. And I think that the off-season weightlifting program does a lot of different, you know, things for the program. I mean, one, it's working out is hard. It's not easy. You have to want to do it. You have to want to be there. You know what I mean? It's physically taxing on your body. Like it takes a lot out of you. Like, you know, let's just be real. But that, you know, what we try to explain to the kids is that is the adversity aspect that you don't see it now. But when you get on the field and you get in these critical situations, these intense situations when, you know, bad things happen, the way that you respond, you know, for us, what we try to explain to the kids is it's going to go all the way back to the way that you responded in the summertime when we were in the weight room. I mean, we didn't lift inside, we lifted outside. So, you know, on some of those hotter days, you know, we had our weight room set up outside this year, you know, obviously for COVID and to try to keep kids safe. And that way we could social distance and all those things. So it's like, now you're outside and it's 92 degrees and it's humid and you're working out, you know what I mean? And like, they get after it when they come to the weight room. So it's like just that next level of adversity, you know what I mean? And you know, constantly letting the kids know, like, hey, just remember when you're in the game and things happen, this is what you're going to revert back to. Your body will naturally revert back to this moment right here. That was tough. That was hard. You had to stick it out. You put the work in, you finished, you know what I mean? So, and that's just what we try to explain to the kids and hopefully, you know, that they understand and they can grasp it. But definitely seeing certain kids on the field and performing the way that they're performing and doing the different things that they're able to do and how much more explosive some of the kids are. It's definitely a testament to the off-season workouts, you know what I mean? And I think that with the kids being able to see that and recognize that as well, it's definitely going to help us this off-season with the commitment that the kids will make.
And of course, when they see a 6-3 season with the opportunity to be a 7-3 season after this coming Thursday, that certainly has got to be a direct connection that they will make right out of that program and through the camp and then on into week number 1. You experienced the first time in a very long time opening up with your arch rival in week number 1, a game that you guys came out with a 27-12 victory in that week number 1 139th meeting between these two schools. As you look at, you know, where your team was, obviously the unique part about playing your arch rival week 1 is that you are trying to figure out where you are as a program while also knowing that you're going into this historic battle on the very first week of the season. when you look back on the team, that Red Raider team that was there in week number 1, and the Red Raider team you'll run on the field now 11 weeks later in week number 12 to match up against that same Leominster team, where do you see the progression? How do you look at your team and go, wow, we did this, it worked out really well, but now they are even better than where we were in week 1?
Oh man, I mean, just to say this, you know what I mean? Like going into week 1 and dealing with some of the adversity that we had to deal with, even coming into camp, the first couple weeks of practice, like we had some COVID issues and things like that. So we didn't even get to scrimmage before we played Leominster. So that first game, it was very gut-wrenching. It was nerve-wracking. Like you're going into a hostile environment, having to go over and play at Doyle Field. We're going to play our arch rival. We're going to play a team that is historically very, very good. Devin Gates is the coach, who's a very good coach. I mean, you just have all these variables and all these different things that you're thinking, and you're like, man, hopefully we come out on top and this goes the right way. And then we get out on the field and, the game starts to progress, different things start to happen. And like I said, we didn't scrimmage before that game. So this is like our first dress rehearsal. It's our first dress rehearsal, you know what I mean? And like the way that our kids responded, the way that the coaching staff responded, what we were able to do that night and get the win in the way that we did it. And we battled some adversity. They made some big plays. I mean, we had a fumble that they recovered. We had an interception return for a touchdown. The Newton kid broke a long run and we were able to catch him before he sprinted into the end zone and create a turnover. I mean, so, all these different things happen. I mean, so we go back and we look at that film and we say, wow, we won that game 27-12. And we have a lot of corrections to make that, things that we haven't been able to see until now being our first dress rehearsal. You know what I mean? So, looking back at that game and then looking at us now and how far we've come and how the kids have progressed, man. And we're just much better than we were week 1. I mean, obviously, like our team has changed. Like, obviously, just me and you sitting here going over the roster and some of the names that are deleted and kids that are no longer with us and so on and so forth. We have the heart and soul and the core of our team is intact, which is a very good thing. But I mean, we've just gotten better and better and better. And then, the last couple of weeks going and playing a team like Westfield, who is very good, who, beat up on everybody that they played all season and to be, in the position we were at the end of that game with a chance to win and having a play called back when we actually get a 2-point conversion and we're on to the second round of the playoffs, just to kind of, see where we were at then. And then, last week, the way that we performed against Algonquin, I mean, we've just gotten better and better and better and better. And like, we definitely have faced our challenges this year and we've lost some really good kids and things like that. But, I'm excited to see the way that we come out and see the difference, in comparison from week 1 to now. I think it's going to be exciting. I think that they're going to be ready to play. Their kids will be fired up. You know what I mean? It's going to be a great game. I can't wait for Thursday to get here. Couldn't get here soon enough. But I definitely think we're a better team and they're a better team too. You know what I mean? So, I'm
that
excited.
Will be the fun part about this going on and going forward in the year to year is you will be able to draw these direct comparisons between where you were week 1 and where you are on Thanksgiving and kind of how your program was able to grow over a 12-week window playing a like opponent the first and in theory last games of the season in some years. As I look down this list, Coach, of some of the games that you guys have played and I count them up, offensively, you have produced in absolute bunches. When I look at the middle of the year, you had a run starting with the Marlboro game that we called on the radio side of things, a 42-34 win, then a Westboro win, a 41-6 win there. And then follow that up with a Neshoba win, 43-36. And then your Algonquin game, 46-19, with kind of an exclamation point to end your season for your offense in a matter of, 9 games, 4 of which you produce better than 40 points. That certainly has got to speak to where you would like to be when you go out on the field. If you can, score more than 40 points, it becomes very hard for a lot of football teams to keep tabs with your offense.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's anytime your offense can produce that way, and that's first of all, it's a testament to the kids and the way that they've bought into the system that we put in place, and then it's a testament, you know what I mean, to our offensive coordinator Christian Lopez, our offensive line coach Max Chavone. I mean, those guys have done a phenomenal job with the offense. You know what I mean? They're young, they're fresh, they're smart, they're energetic. You know what I mean? Like, we're getting the best out of the kids that we have. The kids are performing at an extremely high level. Like, they're just gaining more and more confidence week in and week out. I mean, and if we can have that type of output on Thanksgiving, I mean, like you said, and you're scoring them type of points, it's going to be hard for anybody to match that. So we also have the best running back in Central Mass and probably one of the best backs in the state, which, without that guy, you know what I mean? Maybe we don't have those type of points. We have a lot of other good kids around him, but when you have a kid that's as talented as Anthony Oquendo, I mean, it definitely opens your offense up to where you can do so many more things. You know what I mean? So we're fortunate to have that kid on our team, to say the least. You know what I mean?
And in week 1 of the season, you bring up Anthony Oquendo, and that felt to me like, having seen him from his freshman year to that point in time at the beginning of his senior year, it felt like a really important moment for him in the sense that he was really waiting to have an opportunity for as talented as he has been over the first 3 years of his career. He was waiting for that first moment against Leominster to really have that game. And it felt like in week 1, he got to have that opportunity. And now, obviously, as we turn the corner and we look ahead at Thanksgiving, perhaps this is his first opportunity, battling through injury, battling through just timing, and whether it be, conditions, any of the number of adversity pieces that he has faced. This feels like the Thanksgiving that for him could be that culmination, that moment where he has that breakout moment against Leominster in this, kind of storied history, and get to place his name among the great running backs that have been a part of these two communities.
I mean, man, it's like just to think about it, and like you said, he's battled a lot of things. I mean, freshman year, the game the night before Thanksgiving. I mean, it's windy, it's cold. I mean, this kid is 14, maybe 15 years old, and Leominster was a dog. Like, they were a really good team. So that, you know what I mean? Not to, that he didn't play much in that game, you know what I mean? And they killed us. Like, it wasn't even close. Let's just, being honest. And then the next year, his sophomore year, he's out with an injury, doesn't even dress. Junior year, COVID hits and we don't even play. So now it's his senior year. Like I said, like, he's the best back in Central Mass, arguably can probably stand up there with some of the best backs in the state. There's no doubt about that. So, like, going into, like, this is your one true opportunity to play a real true game on Thanksgiving against Leominster. And like, he played AYF and Leominster, so he's going up against kids that he's friends with. So that, gives it just that much more of that competitive edge. I mean, so it's just, he's going to break out. Like, he's going to break out. He's going to have a big game. Like, he's going to put it all out on the line. Like, every play he's going to play like it's his last. Like, you just know you're just going to get the best Anthony Oquendo that you might see all season on Thanksgiving morning. So, it's definitely something excited to think about. I'm just glad he's on our team and not theirs. You know what I mean? Like,
I can certainly appreciate that. And of course, you have this really neat kind of combination of things. So you have this incredibly talented running back, and that is far from a secret to anybody that is going to play you, whether it was week 1 this year or whether it is all these weeks later in week number 12 for Thanksgiving. So that is probably the worst kept secret on your team. And so what you've found ways to do throughout this season is to, of course, make people guess where that ball is going to go other than Anthony Oquendo. And you have two other runners who can put the ball on the ground. You have Colin Dudek, who is much more of a battering ram, going to run you over north-south, here I come type of a running back. And then you have a running quarterback in Lucas Bolak, who now gives you another dimension for people to worry about. When you start to think about all of that and create, instead of just one talented, all right, here he comes, star running back, but to actually be able to spread that out into different styles of running and different ways. When you look at yourself on film, and of course you are a defensive-minded coach, when you look at that, how much more challenging does it make it for your opposition to be able to scheme against not just one star running back, but a committee of running backs that support that star running back?
I mean, being the guy that's calling our defense this year, I mean, it's a nightmare. You know what I mean? Like you literally, like it's one of the toughest things that you have to do is to try to plan for three different kids that can run the ball. And the way that we do things, you know what I mean? Like it's pretty basic, but at the same time, it's pretty it's pretty amazing. It's pretty tough to get a good read on what we do. I mean, teams try to, load up all of their strength away from Anthony, you know what I mean? But then, Anthony, he's not a great blocker, but he will block. And then you have Dudek that can run the other way. And you have Luke, who's just like a slashing, fast, deceivingly quick kid, you know what I mean? Like, so it's just a defensive nightmare for a coach to have to sit down and try to prepare for that. And, how do you make all your reads? Like, how do you, get your linebackers to make the right read and be in the right spot when, you can run misdirection things. You can get the, thinking we're going this way. And now we got another kid who's a great athlete who can take the ball and go the other way. Anytime you have a running quarterback, that definitely poses problems. Like, this is high school football, you know what I mean? Like, if you have a kid at this level that's an extremely good passer, that's great. That definitely gives you an advantage. But if you have a kid in the backfield that can run the ball and you have a kid like Anthony Oquendo, like it's definitely a nightmare for any defensive coach or team to have to prepare for. So I'm just excited and glad that those kids are on my team. You know what I mean? So
absolutely. And then you get them to flip to your side of the ball, which is even better. It's one of the great parts about, you get to take the same athletes from your offense and flip them onto your defensive side of things. And so as you kind of came in and established your program and your defensive plan, when you think about what are the hallmarks and you describe your defensive style and how these players have represented that defensive style, what should people know about a Fitchburg High School defense under Coach Greg Graham?
Oh man, that's a great question, Todd. I hope that people would say, hey, those kids, number one, like, they get after it. They're aggressive. They're extremely physical. That's my mentality. I would like to think my mentality when I played football. I was physical. You know what I mean? I wanted to hit people. And that's what the kids on our defense do. They want to hit people, you know what I mean? And they're physical. And I think what I've seen, and this is even going back a couple of years now, like, when we had, Charlie Raff was our defensive coordinator, and some of the kids that we've had come through in the last 3 or 4 seasons, I mean, we're just physical. We have kids that are physical kids. But then they're also really good athletes. So when you have kids that are physical and then kids that can run around, we play a lot of base defense. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we play a lot of base defense. You know what I mean? We try to just make it real easy for the kids and put them in position to have some success. I mean, they go out there and they fly around and they just get excited making plays. I mean, but under me, I just want to be known as being, we're physical. You know what I mean? Our kids get after it. When you play us, when you line up against our defense, you better bring it, because all 11 guys on this defense, you know what I mean? They're going to bring it one way or another. You know what I mean? So we're just physical. That's what I want people to say when they mention defense under Greg Graham, is that, those guys are physical.
Physical they will be when it comes to Thursday morning. Coach, getting this first opportunity to talk to you, of course, in advance of the game gives us a chance to kind of look back a little bit to the time where you got to be a part of this series. And I know from our conversations off air that you obviously spent some time in this region toward the tail end of your high school career, but you also started your high school career in another part of the country and relocated to become a part of this series. So as you got a chance coming in to play a little comparison shop, and from where you were to, of course, what you became a part of as part of that middle 90s tradition of Fitchburg High School football, and of course this rivalry, which went through a really exciting era in and of itself during that time period. When you think back to your days getting to play in this series, what do you think about? What do you remember most?
Oh man, it was cold. to say like, I like, it was just cold. Like my junior and senior year, like it was cold. I mean, my senior year, and not to take away from the game, because obviously the game was the game, but my senior year, like the field was so frozen at Crocker Field, we played the first half in sneakers so we could, grip the field. You know what I mean? But it was exciting to say the least. I mean, because at that time when, my junior year, when I first got to Fitchburg High, like I'm from Fitchburg originally, but I moved around as a kid, and that's how I ended up playing my first couple of years of high school football in Florida. But, still like just growing up here as a kid and just going to the Thanksgiving Day games as a kid, and even going to like the old Fitchburg Packer games down at Crocker Field, like when my uncle played, and like, just running down the sideline and just being excited, like to be down there at Crocker Field, like as a little kid, like that was like some of my most exciting memories. And then when I was in fourth grade, I actually went to school in Leominster in fourth grade, and Mr. Mercier was my fourth grade coach. You know what I mean? So he was, I want to say he was like the Leominster running back coach, maybe offensive coordinator. I'm not really sure, but I just remember like being in that guy's classroom, and like he was always drawing up plays, at his desk. You know what I mean? And like I like specifically remember like right around the Thanksgiving Day game, and like he always used to chew big red gum or something like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and he was a great guy. Like he's probably one of my favorite teachers of all time, Mr. Mercier. So, and that's at Southeastern Leominster. So I just remember standing at his desk, and like he's drawing up plays, and he's talking to me about it, and I'm asking him all kinds of questions. So like the history for me, like it just goes back so far from being a kid, and then like having a teacher when I was a kid be like somebody who's like a big part of the rivalry. Like, and we're going back obviously to the 80s when I was in fourth grade, you know what I mean? So like, and Mr. Mercier, like I'm sure you've heard of him. I'm sure you know him. He always wore shorts. Like he's a great guy. And unfortunately, he was a Leominster coach and not a Fitchburg coach. But
He was a Fitchburg coach at one point in time, though.
See, I think I think I did hear that.
Yes, he
But yeah,
was.
so like for me, just I remember like standing at his desk, and he's drawing up plays, and like it just made me like I was fascinated by that. I was excited. Like I just remember the feeling like that I had in my body at that time. Like I'm gonna play in that game one day. Like I'm gonna be a part of that. So like I couldn't wait. And then when I got to Fitchburg High, like my brother Torrance had just graduated, Zach McCall and Rob Williams, and a lot of those kids that were very good. I mean, I think they had like 3 Division I scholarship kids come out the year before I came to Fitchburg High, including my older brothers. Like, so just to come there then, and like the excitement of the program, and like Cosenza was a really good coach. Like he was hard nosed. Like he didn't take no shit. He didn't play any games. Like he was just a hard nosed coach. You know what I mean? Like the expectation was high. Like I thought we had a very good coaching staff. Like, I came from Florida, like a place where like football was big, but I still feel like my last 2 years of high school is where I actually got my best coaching and learned like the most about football, you know what I mean? But, more than anything, like our coach was hardcore. Like if you know Cosenza, like he was a hardcore dude back then. Like so like we were just hardcore. I felt like we were just like that. Just like kind of like the reputation that Fitchburg had. Like just edgy, blue collar, hard nose. And to be a part of the rivalry back then, it was just like, it was special. Like our junior year, like I think we only won by 2 points, and James McCall had like a saving touchdown, like down inside the 5-yard line on their sideline. He tackled Mazzaferro, and we end up winning that game by 2 points. When if they score there, we lose. Our senior year, you know what I mean? Like we kind of dominated that game. I think we won 38-14 or something like that. We had like Todd Stefanidis, who was like, I was just talking about this guy the other day. Like he was good. Like he was good. You know what I mean? Like I look back and like he was just good. He was tough. You know what I mean? Like Clarence Yarbrough, Lawrence Yarbrough, like Dan Schneider, like guys that I played with, like Devin Gates was on our team. Like I think he started at outside linebacker as a sophomore my senior year. Like, just looking back, man, and being able to be a part of that and playing that game, like it's special. Like I can look back and like, I played in a lot of football games, but I look back and like my senior year, that Leominster game, like that's the game I can remember like so many plays specifically. You know what I mean? And even going back to my junior year, like I can remember certain plays like specifically like it happened yesterday. So like, and like to be a part of it now, like I never ever thought I would be the Fitchburg High School head football coach. Like that was never something I planned. It was never a goal. It's just kind of the way that my life turned out, and here I am, you know what I mean? So like to be a part of it on the coaching end and having played in it, I guess it definitely brings out a different level of specialness for me. It's just a part of my life, you know what I mean? It's just a part of my life growing up all the way to now. So it's extremely special. Like I couldn't even explain it or express it in words what it truly, truly means to be a part of, you know what I mean? So I just feel extremely fortunate to be here and be a part of it still. So
when I think about, of course, the cyclical part of this story, it's one of the great parts of what makes probably this series and any series of this age so important, in the interweavings, of some of the points that you're making. And then I look at the history of, Leominster previously had produced 2 head football coaches in this series, with, of course, Huck Hannigan and Marco Landon having grown up playing together for Leominster. And then each of them finds themselves in a place where one is the head coach in Leominster and one is the head coach in Fitchburg, and they matched up and clashed their teams on the gridiron for years as part of this series. And now, all these years later, we go forward, and now Fitchburg has produced the 2 head coaches that are a part of this series, who were teammates together, you and Devin Gates, a few years separated, but together as part of the same football program under Ray Cosenza now, in charge of your respective programs going into this game. You mentioned Todd Stefanidis, who we got a chance to hear from tonight on this radio special. And as we, kind of think about all of those pieces, when you were all together and you were, kind of planning where you wanted your future to go, you just alluded to it moments ago. You never saw that necessarily as a possibility. But as you do look back on it now, and you think about the special nature that team together was so good and so special and so successful in this series, that it actually spawned 2 head coaches that are now going to lead their respective teams into battle. It's got to say an awful lot about your experience under Coach Ray Cosenza, but also about your experiences together that would keep you involved in this series and involved in football and wanting to lead high school athletes into this game.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just, man, like just looking back, like I could name so many guys, you know what I mean, like that I was fortunate to play with, like Gary Jackson, who was unbelievable, Ryan Keenan, Mike Bolak, Devin, like I said, like and like just going back, like when I first started coaching football, like I started coaching Pop Warner my junior year of high school, and it's funny because I was helping Devin's dad, Mr. Gates. Like he's the first guy that like he let me, James McCall, and this other guy, Clarence Yarbrough, we were all on the Fitchburg High team at the time. Like he let us all be like assistant coaches to him. You know what I mean? So it's like almost like extended family. You know what I mean? I've known Devin, you know what I mean? Obviously since like the early 90s, you know what I mean? Like I played with him, like he's extremely good player. Like like I said, Cosenza was an extremely good coach who was passionate. You know what I mean? I feel like I definitely, use some of those same coaching styles and tactics, and even use some of the same literature that was used, you know what I mean, back then, you know what I mean? Like, and talking to the kids and the players and things like that. So, I mean, to be here now and Devin's on the other side and we kind of get to go head to head and compete and, be a part of this special game and, be in a position to make a positive impact on young kids' lives and be able to do it through football and to be able to do it through this rivalry. I mean, it's extremely special to me. I just feel fortunate. Like I couldn't say that enough of how fortunate I feel just to be a part of it. You know what I mean? And to still be a part of it. I never thought I would be coaching football. Like, even though like I tried it in high school, like, like life happens, you go to college and, you're living your young life and you're having fun. And like, I just ended up back here just by chance, you know what I mean? Like literally it's just by chance. So like, I just feel like extremely fortunate, you know what I mean? And it's definitely special, you know what I mean? To be a part of that legacy and to be able to coach against somebody that I actually played on the same team with and have a lot of respect for back when we were in high school. I mean, we went to battle together and things like that. We were both on the same defense. I mean, and I could name pretty much all the kids that were on that defense. You know what I mean? Like, that's how special it is. Like, we're 30 years later and I can still probably name most of the kids that were on that defense. You know what I mean? And because we were close, we might not have all hung out together every day. We might not have all been best friends, but when we were on the field, when we were in that locker room, like we were all close. I think we all had a special love and a special respect for each other. And, I can see any of those guys to this day, you know what I mean? And it's like, you have to stop and talk to them, give them a hug. Hey, how you doing? You know what I mean? Like, it's still like that. I haven't seen a lot of those guys in many years, but the ones that I have seen over the years, like we have a lot of respect and a lot of love for one another. And it's definitely comes from being a part of Fitchburg High School football. So I'm thankful for that.
On Thanksgiving morning, and we'll talk more about this on the field that morning, but I want to get your thoughts now. As obviously I know as a head coach, you are thinking about everything builds up probably to that very last moment before you clear out of that locker room and run out onto that field to start that football game. You're going to address your team one final time before they go into that battle. And you're going to think about all of these memories that you've had and all of these experiences you've had, both in your days involved in this rivalry and then with this team in this season. What do you imagine at this point in time? What will be your final message? Where do you want your team's head at as they come running out onto that field from that historic locker room to play on that historic gridiron on Thursday morning?
Hey, I just want my kids to go out and just and have no doubt, leave no doubt, respect them, but have no fear. Leave it all out on the field. Like we literally have nothing to lose. Most of all, just go out and have fun. Go out, have fun, and just leave your imprint on this legacy and do it, the best way that you possibly can. You know what I mean? But nevertheless, like what and this is kind of something I've been, telling my kids all year before every game is just leave no doubt. Leave no doubt. Like we are who we are. We can't change that. All you can do now is go out and play, and there's going to be a lot of people there watching, and just make sure that when that game is over, that you left no doubt. And people have to respect that you're going to go out and you're going to play your butt off, and hopefully we come out on top. But just leave no doubt, have no fear, and just go out and have fun and do what you love doing. And like I said, just put your stamp on this legacy. You know what I mean? You've worked hard for it. You deserve it. Now let's go out and make all the hard work pay off. That's where, I want my kids' head to be at. And let's just be physical, let's just be physical.
Memories will most definitely be made come Thursday morning. Fitchburg High School head coach Greg Graham, thank you so much for spending the time with us on this broadcast today as we get you set for coverage of this 140th meeting of Leominster and Fitchburg, the 115th Thanksgiving Day Classic. All the coverage begins on Wednesday evening on AM 1280 and 105.3 FM and WPKZstream.com with Recipe for a Classics premiere 5 to 7 p.m. on Wednesday night, November the 24th. Follow that with an encore presentation on Thursday morning from 7 to 9 a.m. right there on AM 1280 and 105.3 FM. Recipe for a Classic encore that morning, leading up to our live coverage. Our live countdown to kickoff from Crocker Field begins at 9 a.m. with kickoff to follow at 10 at Crocker Field on Thanksgiving morning. We'll have all the action for you on the K-Zone. We're looking forward to it as well. Until next time, and until that broadcast on Thursday morning, I am Todd Robbins saying thank you so very much for joining us. And until then, so long, everybody.